Good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing? Oh, you're just going to eat like right there, huh?
I was eating before you put the mic on.
It's a studio. Mics are always on, remember. You can't do that because then that turns me off as well. You can mute yours right there. Ooh, do we get more unboxings? We could. Let's add that to the list. We still got a whole box to get through, but we're not going to do all of it, obviously. Not today, no. Your mic is off, Carla Murray. Shout out to everybody on YouTube. Are you going to join us now, Carla Murray?
I put my a widget of my period
10,
tracker right on my home
9,
screen.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning and welcome to the Carla Marie and Anthony Show. Right before I pressed that button to turn the cameras on here, Carla Marie, with 10 seconds left in our countdown, decided to start the sentence.
What was it?
I just put a widget for my period tracker or something. That's all I heard.
On my home screen.
Okay.
On my phone.
And why is that?
Well, because I didn't even know I could do that. So, like, it'll tell me how many days.
Oh, that's right, because this is, like, new for Apple people.
Well, no, it's been around, like, for a year, but I don't play with that. I just have, like, the weather.
Homie, don't play that?
I got some widgets, but I didn't know that. I used the Clue app. I didn't know that it, like, had one. Mm-hmm. I'm so much more aware about my body. It's amazing.
So what does it tell you?
I got 4 days.
Is it like, you know when you go to, like, a Rodizio restaurant, like a Brazilian restaurant, they have the stopwatch where it's like, green is go, red is stop. Is it like that just on your phone? Like, today's a good day.
No, it just tells me how many days, then I can easily, like, track some stuff, which sometimes I get nervous because I'm like, Handmaid's Tale, they're going to know what's happening.
They definitely know. Yeah.
But
Biden knows, Trump knows, China knows, Russia knows. They all have.
You think they get little alerts?
Yeah, they do. All the world leaders are tracking your periods now.
But it's like, okay, well, they're going to have to yank my IUD out.
Let's see. Martha said, I don't know how to widget. Well, Martha, if you were an Android person, you would have had widgets so long, it would have been old news by now. I don't even really use widgets anymore.
Okay, so what's the point then?
Let's see what widgets I use.
Because you don't have your period yet.
I do not have my period tracker.
When you get it.
I don't have my Rodizio timer on my phone. That would be a great invention, though, for women in the workplace. You don't think it'd be great?
Yes, I see.
On your desk where you could have, like...
There is a company, I think, that has this. Like, leave me the friggin' alone.
Yeah. And really, anyone can use it. You don't have to be on your period.
No, there was a company I saw that you put little flags up that are like, I'm working on something, do not interrupt.
Yeah.
You can interrupt me if it's important, or like green flag, like come talk to me whenever.
Yeah.
Yours would be green flag at all times, and mine would be red at all times.
See, mine, if I was responsible, mine would not be a green flag at all times. But I'm not responsible, and I am a little bit of a chatty Cathy, so I can't be trusted.
But Martha, if you just hold down on like an empty spot of your phone, everything starts doing this, all the apps.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can tap the plus at the top left, and there's all your widget options.
Yeah, it's a little different on an Android, but same idea. And then on your home screen, you can get specific information. Like I have a widget on my home screen. It's a clock widget, and it has 4 time zones.
I like that.
And I have labeled them Miami, Nashville, Salt Lake City, and Seattle.
Wait, stop.
What?
Does the group chat know that?
I don't know.
That's where Jake, Ricky, Erica, and John all live.
Yeah. I don't have one specifically for John, obviously, because we're in the
same.
same time zone. But yeah. Look.
Do they know this?
So when I open up my phone,
I mean, I have everyone's time zones as well, but in my app. Like, if I have to go to my app.
I take it back. I do have Los Angeles. Miami, Nashville, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles. Take a look.
I cannot.
So I know what time it is with all of them.
What's funny is, like, people don't know that we're all, like, actually really good friends because we're not together, right? But we're texting each other all the time.
Well, yeah, but I think it's also because Jake is in there, and none of us actually like Jake, so it's hard to say that we're all really good friends.
Love Jake.
You know,
Jake and I are besties, for reals.
I do love Jake.
But-
we text about underwear a lot.
But it's funny because it's happened to all of us, and we'll all like bring it back to the group. Like, oh, I mentioned you guys, and someone's like, oh, you talk to them? How are they doing? It's like I talk to them every day, around the clock.
Yep.
But people have no idea. So I feel like we're in this secret, like the Magic Attic Club.
The what?
Magic Attic Club.
Oh, Magic Attic. I don't know what that is, but now I at least
like
know what words you said.
dolls that you have.
Let's get into the list for a second, shall we? So we do have to talk about the group trip survey. I believe, Carla Marie, you still have the link to share with everybody. I know we have like 25, 30 people that have responded already. And what was the leading candidate so far?
The place?
The place
Italy,
for
because it was
Italy.
my family that filled out the list.
Well, that will probably change. Then we do have some mystery box presents that we're going to open up with everybody. The Washington teacher who left his job to sail the world. We'll talk about that. And then, towards the end of our regular time here, we're going to have a guest in studio. And her name is Cynthia. She's a genetic counselor from Fred Hutch, specifically for genetic cancers.
Yes.
And when we spoke to her the other day, some of the stuff that she knows and has access to is some of the most fascinating information that I've heard in a long time.
It's crazy.
And if you are interested in learning about health, longevity, family planning, any of those things, and obviously cancers, this is going to be a really great conversation, and you'll obviously be able to ask questions throughout our discussion on Twitch. So make sure that you stick around for that. I believe they get here around 8:45.
Yep.
So we're going to take our first break at some point, then we'll take a second break.
2 breaks.
Before we bring them in, yeah. That's kind of what we did last week, or last show. We had 2 breaks, one towards the end. Yes, Carla.
Tacoma Swifty said her brother and her did a genetic cancer test since her mom had the gene.
See, and that's one of the things I want to talk about. I would imagine most people go in for themselves, right? But what if I got my whole family to do a genetic test, and then we send all of that information over to a doctor, and then
Knowledge
they can
is power.
actually, like, with more group data, figure out our family a little more.
That's what we're going to start calling the segment, whether it's Fred Hutch or someone else that comes in that's smart. We're going to call it Knowledge is Power.
Okay. Cool.
And with great power comes great responsibility. That'll be the next segment.
All right.
I do keep getting texts about this, and I know everyone was talking about it before, but O.J. Simpson died.
Oh, how did he die?
Cancer.
Appropriate for the last conversation we were just having, I guess.
Or karma.
Well, did someone stab him to death?
No.
So then it's probably not karma.
Yeah, but
I mean, I think he lived, how old was he?
76.
Yeah, he lived a pretty good life.
I know, like, it's annoying. He murdered
Why?
somebody.
Well, we don't know for sure.
He allegedly murdered somebody.
No, allegedly he did not murder somebody. Because he was found innocent.
Right.
Or
He
not
allegedly
not
did
guilty.
not murder somebody.
Yeah. I mean, listen, for legal reasons, I am going to take what the courts have decided because I don't need the estate of O.J. Simpson coming after me for slander.
Okay.
Okay?
They're busy today.
They are probably busy today. So
I guess his karma was going to jail for selling his jerseys.
there was that too. Although, didn't he steal his jersey back? Like, that was the thing. He saw someone who was selling his stuff possibly illegally, and he, like, went in and beat him up and took their stuff. but it was his stuff, which made this all very confusing. Moving on. We do have that group trip survey. Did you put the link in there, Carla Marie? If you would like to join us for our Carla Marie and Anthony community get-together, hoedown, it's an international hoedown. That's what I want to call it. Okay. We are figuring out how we're going to do all of that. And the company that we're working through has a survey where they figure out people's budgets, timing, and locations, and run it through some sort of algo, and then pick the most common answers for everybody. And then we go on that trip. That'll end up being spring of 2025.
Yes, and whether you think if you've never flown before and you're like, not a chance of going on this trip, still fill out the survey, because the more responses we get, the more important we look.
Well, it's not even that. The more responses we get, the more access we get to different options.
Yeah.
So even if you don't want to go, you can help out the people that do want to go by properly filling out the survey.
Yeah.
So, but don't throw in like weird answers that throw off our numbers. Pick some cool places. Carla Marie, mystery box day 2. Oh. What do we got?
Okay, so
what's mystery?
Fun Delivered is a company that takes unclaimed mail and packages and turns them into mystery boxes, which is amazing. So they sent us a giant box, and
there's a lot of stuff in there.
And we basically got to do it fun, like unboxing. So what did we get the other day?
The other day we got neon tabletop signs that say either 15 or 51. We think it's most likely it was ordered for like a quinceañera. We also got size 6.5 men's shoes. Do we have more shoes here? No, what is this? I don't know what this is.
Mine says fragile.
And then there was a third item that we got. There was the shoes.
And a women's bathing suit, which I didn't try it on yet, but it's a brand that I actually like, and I think it's going to fit.
Oh, and we got pipe covers. Insulated pipe covers.
Yeah. So anyway, Fun Delivered is the company. They sent us the box just to do this for funsies, but you can order a mystery.
I got some slides.
Shut up!
I got
some slides. Are they your size?
I hope so. They look like they're very close. What do we got? Do we have a size 11? How do I open this? There we go. I got some slides.
What if I get somebody's ashes?
44. I don't know what size a 44 is.
I think I'm like a 37.
I think these might fit. These are cool too.
Try it. Are they supposed to be like a basketball?
No, I think it's supposed to look like woven, but it's not. It's rubber.
All right, so I got a thing called...
These are cool.
Twinkling Tree. A little magic can take you a long way. 2 twinkly trees. This one looks less broken.
Twinkly trees?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's... Okay, you got a plug there. Oh, so it's like a tabletop thing.
Wait. Okay, maybe... Man, this definitely was supposed to go to my mom.
It still can. What? Does anyone know what these things are? Is it a question mark?
This definitely came from Temu. Oh, it needs batteries.
No, it had a plug.
Yeah, but it's got a battery thing.
But it also had a plug. Oh. We have a battery filler.
Wait. I don't think you need the batteries, but it's got a...
So we have 2 of those now. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty pumped about these slides.
I'm definitely giving this to my mom for Christmas.
These should fit. I'm not going to try them on right now. What?
Just put it next to your foot.
Okay, jeez. I'm just kind of like stuck in this seat, so here, let's chairs don't really
Those are good vacation slides for our trip. Ah!
What?
You do not put new shoes on a table.
Those are not shoes. They're slides. They're different. Let's see if this one fits.
Oh, we're getting the shoe off. Hold on. I got to make sure I put the feet tag on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
They just fit.
They're actually not that comfortable.
Oh, no. Your foot's hanging off the front. Pick it up. Show everybody.
I got socks on. Flip-flops and socks.
Of course. And they might have to go to somebody smaller.
Yeah, that might be like half. I think that might be like half a size too small.
Those are probably a 10.
They kind of come up like this. They're not fully flat, so that's why it feels weird.
Okay, what's the number? 44?
44, 45.
All right.
It means it's either a 44 or a 45.
It's 10 and a half.
Yep.
Thank you, Julie.
Exactly. What did I say? Half a size too small. I'm an 11. Pierre's going to love them.
Okay. Well, that was still cool.
They are really cool. If you're a 10 and a half and you want some slides.
We'll send them. They're rubber, yes. No shoes at all on the table, Renee said. It's bad luck.
Stop
I
it.
don't put any shoes in. First of all,
How do you think they were made? You don't think those shoes were made on a table?
No. They were made in a
You think every
converter.
cobbler was working on the floor? No. They put them on tables.
Because also, there's no reason a shoe should ever be on a table.
I disagree. What if I want to put my feet up?
That's different.
Those are shoes on tables?
Yeah. Feetless shoes should never be on tables.
Feetless shoes?
Like, I could do that.
Oh, shoes without feet in them. Okay.
Footless.
But shoes with feet in them. I think shoes with feet in them are worse because those are shoes that have been, like, obviously worn, at least in this scenario.
No, new shoes are, it's the Italian superstition is new shoes, so.
Yeah, and how did that go for Italy? What are they doing these days? They had that whole ass empire, and now they're a little boot. I'm not going to listen to any Italian proverbs. They had most of the world, the known world at the time, and now they're a boot.
Renee said it's Italian superstitions made by moms who didn't want your shoes on the table.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
That's great.
Let's see. Mikey hates when shoes are facing up when they're on the ground.
I don't know what that means.
Like where the bottoms are up.
Who would do that?
Maybe
If mine
like
are
if you-
wet, I do that.
Well, if you like throw them on the ground, they might pop up like that. But I don't know if that's like an Arab thing, is it? I've never heard of that.
Lindsay said the way I slowly took my feet-filled shoes off the table. I love that that's the first thing she's ever said in here.
All right, moving on. We did our... we don't even know how the twinkle tree.
Amy's working
What's it
on
called? The glitter tree? Twinkle tree? Twinkle toes?
Twinkling Tree. It's definitely from Temu. We got to talk about the movie last night really quick.
Oh, yeah.
We did a screening of The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. And we got to see Nara was there, Becky came, Lana was there. There were a lot of people that were a part of this community that we've never gotten to meet.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
Well, Nara we've seen a bunch of times.
A bunch. She's filled my prescriptions at Fred Meyer.
Oh, the tree is not working. Good thing we have another tree, though.
Yeah, but I think the tree needs a battery.
Okay.
Okay, anyway. The movie was so good. I obviously watched the trailer.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, it's a war movie, but like it kind of seems funny.
Mm-hmm. So it's a Guy Ritchie movie. So if you've seen Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, what are some other big Guy Ritchie movies? I'm blanking right now, but Guy Ritchie does a very good job of like the shoot 'em up style movie. So a lot of people die, but he does it in a way that's like fun and quirky and weird.
Yeah. I will say, the cast, they're great to look at.
Yeah. Well, you have Superman. You have Henry Cavill.
He's
right?
so hot.
And then what's his name? I've seen him on social a lot, and I know he's Jack Reacher.
Alan Richson.
Alan Rickton?
Ritchson. He is the largest man ever. He's so hot.
That man, like,
Alan Richson.
I don't know what you have to do to become the size and appearance of that man, but I would. Wow. Okay. It's actually kind of cool. Someone wanted two of those, huh?
Probably nightlights on each.
Oh, like on their nightstand? All right. Pretty cool. And then that came out of Fun Delivered. Okay. So, Alan Richton?
Richson. I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's Rickson, but I don't know why you would say that name like that.
Let me put him on the screen real quick just so everyone knows
But
who we are talking about.
Whether you like it's not a war movie. It's hard to call it a war movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Dunkirk. If you've seen Dunkirk, also a great movie, but like I don't know. This was very like James Bond fun movie.
There we go. That's him on the screen.
He's great.
He is a massive man. Like, he's just a large human being and good looking. But besides the fact that there was some good eye candy, also, I don't know who the woman was in the movie.
I looked her up.
But she was like Gal Gadot
So
and Olivia Rodrigo put together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of what she looked like. Also beautiful. Like, everyone in that movie was
Isaac
beautiful.
Gonzalez.
Was it?
Isaac Gonzalez.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Alex Pettyfer's in it.
So, outside of all the good-looking people, which shouldn't be surprising, right? It's Hollywood. It's filled with good-looking people. But the movie is about, it's based on a true story from classified documents from Winston Churchill's memos or something, where Winston Churchill created essentially the first like special ops division. And this is their story. And they're trying to bring down
And none of them
part
are
of like the Nazi war machine. They've got to sail around halfway around the world to do so, yada, yada, yada. It was so much fun. And I'm not trying to say it was like the best movie of all time, but I couldn't punch any holes in the movie if I want. Like, it was kind of perfect for what it was.
I'm like, I hate this. My heart rate was going so fast.
Well, you're not a suspense person.
My resting heart rate is 68.
Okay.
I looked at my watch during that movie at one point. It was at 116.
Oh, wow.
The Mountain Dew probably didn't help,
Okay.
but still. It was almost doubled
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
by sitting there.
There are some very high suspense, high stress moments in the movie. It's also one of those movies, and I always say this about like the Fast and Furious franchise. Go see it in a theater.
Yeah.
Because it's big and it's loud and it's just seen better, right? It's not a quiet sit at home movie.
No.
Go get your tub of disgustingly large popcorn. Go get your gigantic soda
Or slush.
and enjoy yourself. But definitely worth it. 100% worth the price of admission. The next movie I want to see, though, is Civil War. I've heard that's good. I think it comes out this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
That one's not supposed to be as fun. It's supposed to be actually pretty terrible.
So, no.
So, right up my alley. What's your go-to movie snack in a theater? That came from Martha. Carla Marie?
Other than popcorn. Yesterday, I got chocolate-covered cookie dough. But I like Raisinets. They're really my go-to.
Raisinets are what I normally go to, but yesterday at the Regal Cinema downtown in Seattle, they had chocolate-covered gummy bears. And that is one of my favorite snacks of all time, one of my favorite sweets of all time. So I got them. They weren't great because normally when I get them, they're from like an old school candy shop type of place. Yeah. This was some big box company that made them, but they weren't terrible. They just weren't as... I feel like there was either too much chocolate on them or not enough gummy inside of them. The ratio is off, but they're still very good.
Okay.
And I normally get like an obscene amount of them. And this was a little bag where like you get the box, it's this big, but then you open up the plastic bag inside and it's this big.
I'm a big fan of bringing your own snacks to the movie theater.
Didn't you bring a burrito or something one time?
What?
I feel
You
like you
brought a burrito.
No, I did not bring
You didn't snooze that, I don't think.
Yeah, I did.
Did you? Go back.
I did bring a burrito. Or you did bring a burrito. I think it was when you and Kat went to a movie.
Wait.
Right?
I vaguely remember this.
This was back in our Power 93.3 days.
I think we went to see like 50 Shades of Grey together.
Yeah, and you got burritos and took them in to the movie. This is the story that I remember. I didn't go with you guys.
I'm vaguely remembering this.
Look at that. I brought a taco the other day. Said eats and tweets. Raisinets are my favorite too.
Martha, thank you. I pour M&Ms in my popcorn, she said.
Don't give me that nonsense.
I was doing scoops of popcorn with some of my chocolate-covered cookie dough yesterday, popping it in my mouth.
No.
I also just eat the popcorn like this. Savage.
I do have to, especially when we host like a screening like we did yesterday. And if you're ever in the Seattle area, come to those screenings because they're fun. Yeah. They're free. We got free popcorn and soda yesterday. But when we do those events, and it's not necessarily that I'm in some sort of like position of authority, but I know that there's people around me that I'm familiar with. There were some people from LA Fitness and Ballard that came yesterday. And I have to constantly remind myself to be better when eating popcorn. because I don't like the person I am when someone puts popcorn in front of me. I just can't help it. I'm like a little popcorn gremlin. And while I have popcorn in my mouth, I'm already scooping I'm like double scooping popcorn into my face.
I understand sometimes I'll take one piece. But if you eat popcorn by just one piece every time, you're not a real person.
I tried doing it yesterday because I was like, oh, be refined, be dignified.
I literally was doing this at one point.
Yeah, and then no.
Tongue to the corn because it sticks.
Do you ever take a handful of popcorn and you're like, you have to kind of move it up and down to get all of the popcorn into your mouth? That's the disgusting troll that I am when I get popcorn.
Like a little raccoon.
Texas Chris said, don't be ashamed to be to popcorn goblin tones. Yeah, it's bad. It is bad. Next on the list, Carla Marie.
What do we got?
We did Mystery Box Day 2. We will have more on Monday. This Washington teacher who left his job to sail around the world. Give us the info.
Okay, so I saw this video yesterday. It's giving Andy from The Office when he goes and lives on his parents' boat, not really knowing what he's doing. He gets kind of trapped at sea and he's gone the whole time.
But also in a sitcom and not in real life.
Correct.
Okay.
So this guy was a teacher in Washington State here, and he said that last year he had a classroom with no windows. And he was like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. I got to get out. So he went to Mexico and like hitchhiked around Mexico and went on some people's sailboats and just learned very little. Yeah. Bought a sailboat and is now sailing. He did an interview with Como News here in Seattle. And they sit down with him, like, virtually. First of all, he looks like Jack Sparrow, and they bring that up. They're like, you look a little bit like Captain Jack Sparrow. Yeah. And he's young. I love it. I don't have high hopes that he's going to.
No, he's going to be young forever because he's not making it.
Luke Hartley was teaching music at Washington Middle School in Seattle, but this year he's on a journey to circumnavigate the world in a sailboat. He sold what he had, whatever little he had, bought a boat, and he's in Mexico. Now he's setting off to French Polynesia to begin his trip around the world.
Let me be very clear.
He expects it's going to take 5 years.
Let me be very clear. I do not want anything to happen to this man. No. I want him to make it home safely. But I wonder if Vegas has odds on how many days this guy makes it. Because
put this on my story so everyone can find it.
I get it. I get it, right? Like sail around the world, be in tropical locations, a little bit of exploration and adventure.
I think it's more of I'm leaving all of this behind.
Which is fine.
You could have missed the whole pandemic out there. Well, why do you get food? Fish?
But all of that is fine. I get it. If you want to detach from the world, you hate your job, they stuck you in a classroom with no windows for a year. I get all of that. I just don't know if people understand how crazy the seas are. Yeah,
first storm and I'm out. May Day.
Yeah, I would not make it.
It's going to be a May Day Friday.
Yeah, I just don't know how he's going to do it.
I'd be barfing. First of all, who's going to drive my ship if I'm barfing?
He mentions learning on YouTube and Google, which is great, just not the same in practice.
Yeah, like if you were a pilot and you were like, I learned on YouTube and Google.
Yeah, I wouldn't get in your plane. I don't know. Just don't think this guy's going to make it, which is sad. But I hope he has a good time while he's doing it. You know?
It's pretty cool.
Wait, let's see. Watch YouTube. So many do it. Just make sure you watch the weather patterns, have a Starlink and stuff. There's no way that anyone who has...
Wait, he can have the Wi-Fi out there?
If you have Starlink, yeah, or some sort of satellite service.
So what do you mean? How do I get Starlink?
You pay for it.
And it just magically comes to my computer? Or I got to bring a device?
No, it's you get a Starlink receiver, which then you plug into.
Like the T-Mobile one we have.
Yeah, basically. Except T-Mobile is still using cell towers.
Right.
Starlink is literally coming from space.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, if
but the only problem with Starlink,
things that day.
The only problem with Starlink is you have to subscribe to Elon Musk's tweets, and they just come directly to your feed every single day. Let's see.
So, yeah, I just put it on my story if you want to find him.
There is a man rowing from Hawaii to Australia alone, says Mergen. But is he like a professional rower? Because I feel like people have done similar things.
Who was that guy? Did you see the guy that just ran across Africa?
Yeah. He ran the length of Africa. It's like 10,000 miles or something insane.
I'm good, bro.
Yeah, I don't know.
5K was like the biggest moment of my life.
Mish said, I have a friend that is planning on circumnavigating with her dad. They've been preparing for 4 years. Totally different.
Now, what does circumnavigating mean?
You go around the globe.
Okay.
Around the circumference. That's where the word comes from.
I think it sounds cooler to say go around the globe.
Maybe. But that's where the word comes from because you're going around a globe. So you're finding that circumference would be around the middle exactly.
How else are you going to go if you're in water?
Just down. One-way trip.
You can go this way?
That would still be circumnavigating the globe.
Wouldn't you just fall off?
Yes. You'd get to the ice wall and then you'd fall off. That's what they'll have you believe. Did we ever talk about how apparently my brother's friend's dad is one of the preeminent flat earthers?
He like invented the group, right?
He like goes on all the talk shows and tells people he's got like a very popular YouTube channel, probably blows us away with whatever we'll do in our careers. He probably has more views and more followers on that.
But
what?
We know the earth isn't flat. So
do we? Have you not seen an ice wall? Or maybe seen an ice wall?
I've seen photos from space. And it's not flat.
How do you know? How do you know it wasn't AI?
Because it wasn't AI.
How do you know?
Because it didn't exist when I saw it.
But that's because they didn't tell you it existed yet.
Well, guess what, though? Here's the thing.
Do you think everyone got the internet like the day that it was invented? No, it was the government first.
This is what I don't understand is that it doesn't matter if it's flat or a globe. Like, we're all still here. No one's falling off. If you believe one thing or the other, you're like, we haven't fallen off of the earth, so it doesn't actually matter what you believe.
No, there are, so it does matter because there are specific scientific truths that are grounded in the fact that we live on a globe with gravity.
So do they think that like every other planet's a circle and we're flat?
I don't know. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
I'm not subscribing to being flat earth. If you're a flat earther, that's fine. I like whatever is what I'm saying. I don't care. But don't try to push your religion on me.
Well, it's not a religion.
It is though.
It's not.
AMS said, I bet half those views are my husband and his coworkers.
There was one time, and I couldn't tell if my friend was being like a troll or not, but someone said something about flat earthers, and then one of my other friends jumped in and was like, well, don't judge if you don't have all the facts. And all of us kind of like stopped, looked at him, and then just continued on with our day because no one wanted to address
but I do have
what
all
was
the
just
facts.
said. Do you? You have all the facts that they've given you, Carla Marie.
Yes. Has anyone fallen off the side of the earth?
Here's what happened.
Because don't they believe that you'll fall off?
Well, no, there's ice sheets that block you.
But didn't like a group of them set out in a boat and they came back and they were like, yeah, it wasn't flat.
Well, no, maybe they didn't know how to row a boat and then they had to come back. Because here's what I think happened.
So they think we're in a cube?
I think, no, it's flat.
And you just go off?
But you can't go off because there's an ice wall.
Okay, so it's Game of Thrones now.
Basically, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So here's what I think happened. This is, I think, the most reasonable explanation to all of this. Is for centuries, people were selling maps. Right? And everyone was like, this is Earth. It's flat. Here's a map of it. Here's a picture of what Earth is. And one day, some entrepreneurial spirit said, what if I sold something better than a map? And I got people to believe in it. And then I had the trademark on this non-map map, right? What would I create? And they created the globe.
Which I need in here because I don't have a good understanding of where things are in the circle part of it.
And ever since that person had that idea, they have cornered the market on globes. And maybe they have a patent, and every globe that gets sold goes to that person. And we've been supporting Big Globe and their dark money for years.
Question.
Yes.
Who was the first person to say it was a globe? without going to space and looking down. Because it wasn't like in 1960 when we went up there, we're like, oh, it's actually a circle.
No.
Columbus?
No. Someone in the chat's going to have his name.
Vespucci?
Oh, we can't snooze anymore. Someone in the chat is going to...
Magellan!
No, it's not Magellan. Magellan was the first one to go around the globe.
Galileo?
It may have been Galileo, but all I know is there were people for a long time who theorized that we did not live on a flat planet. There were also people who theorized that the Earth was not the center of the universe. And those people were not treated kindly
They were
in
witches.
their time. They oftentimes were jailed or thought of as crazy people. And yeah, it wasn't really a good time.
Oh,
to be alive.
marijuana, thank you for the gifted subs.
Oh, thank you. I also saw earlier, I think Jen and Lisa also dropped in some gifted subs.
you.
So thank you guys very, very much. Marijuana gave me my sweet haircut yesterday.
Looks good.
I feel much cleaner. So, you know what we're going to do? We are going...
Jules Verne.
Who's that?
You remember Jules Verne?
No,
I remember learning about that guy.
I do not.
You don't remember that? Hold on. Can we have time? How much time? Oh, 2 minutes. I can give you a 2 minute. Oh, wait.
Give me a book report.
I was supposed to do a book report on somebody. Who?
I
Remember?
don't know. Well, you're wasting time here. You got 1 minute and 50 seconds now.
He was a French novelist, poet, and playwright.
Oh, Around the World in 80 Days. That's that guy?
Look at his little signature.
Yeah. Was a fiction author, Carla Murray. Sweet book report.
Wow, he died in 1905 from
Okay,
diabetes.
We're going to move on.
Hold on. What was I supposed to do that book report about?
We'll figure it out when we come back. Because when we do come back, we have to talk about some other things. We're going to get ready for our friends at Fred Hutch. They might actually be arriving any moment now. So we'll check on that. We will be back in a couple minutes. Here we go. All right.
Good job, team.
Here we go. Welcome back.
Are we back?
We should be. We should be so back, according to someone that we know very well. You'll notice we got a new chair here, an additional chair here in the studio, and that is because our guest is very shortly going to be joining us. And we have our friends at Fred Hutch. They're back in with us, and today specifically is Cynthia, who is a genetic counselor.
Which I just want to know explain all of that.
I think that's why she's here.
I know, that's what I mean, not you, her.
But it's gonna be an awesome conversation. We're gonna have her in a couple minutes. So what I want to get everyone to do is make sure you have, because you will have questions as this pops up, as different things come up in this discussion. So make sure you're in Twitch, because those questions we can pull a little easier than YouTube. Yeah. So if you happen to be watching it on YouTube right now, come on over to the purple side on Twitch, and make sure you get those questions in the chat. So
also, it's very funny that we're going from flat earthing to genetics
to actual science.
So I'm pretty sure that tomorrow, Friday, April 12th, 2024. Do you know what that is?
April 12th, 2024. April 12th. Oh, is that a My Day Friday anniversary? Today would have been the anniversary, technically.
Is it the 11th or 12th?
I want to say it was 4/11. But yeah, that would have been the 10-year anniversary of launching My Day Friday. What a different time that was. What a different place. Here's what people don't understand. Carla Marie and I were not even close to being like the first podcasters out there. We're like the millionth podcasters that have existed. But from a radio perspective, you have to remember that now.
Oh, wait.
What?
A Friday in April?
Yeah.
That year? Wait, no, what year? I did
2014.
Sorry, keep going.
What people have to remember is specifically in the radio world.
It's today.
It is today, right?
Wow.
The 11th.
10 years.
People in radio, for whatever reason, and I get it, it was a new technology and podcasting was coming up and taking listening ears away from radio. So a lot of people in radio fought podcasting. And even for something as simple as an on-demand show, which now we all know it's like the most important thing you can have for Elvis or for any of the shows.
Yeah.
But there were radio hosts out there that would refuse and get their lawyers to fight their companies because people were putting things on demand. And they'd say, no, if they can't come here for my show, and you have to remember there's ratings bonuses and stuff, right? So for every person you lose outside of your actual show hours, at the time you were losing money.
Yeah.
And the radio world was so behind podcasting that when we launched My Day Friday, all we did was launch it to the Elvis Duran website. Like it wasn't a podcast like you'd think about it today, right? Where you can listen to it on the phone,
like
wherever
if you minimize the website, I think it would stop.
That was it, right? You'd have to be on a desktop to listen to it, or you'd have to pull up the website on your phone, play it, and then leave your phone open to listen to it. And that's how long, that's only 10 years. Think about how crazy it is now that you're getting podcasts on TV shows, right? Like ESPN is taking podcast content.
Well, do you think they're going to do this with streamers?
They are already. I think their streamers are already infiltrating the regular broadcast world.
So if we're going by, how we do things, then in 2028, streaming will be what podcast is today.
Well, because in 2018 is when we started streaming for real. Angela said, I remember that. It was annoying having to keep the app open while listening. And I remember when iHeartRadio, I think the app they merged with was Spreaker. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they bought it or paid them a lot of money or whatever. That was the back end of iHeartRadio podcasting. And that changed the game for us because then we were a real podcast. Because for a while, it was really just like Apple Podcasts and a couple other random apps here and there. It wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now. And you couldn't at the time.
Spotify didn't even have podcasts.
Well, you couldn't even do what we do now, which is post in one place. Like we host our podcast on a platform called Megaphone, and now it goes to all the other
you can
sources.
do that.
You'd have to do that individually every single time.
Okay, Grandpa, tell me more.
It's crazy. But it's crazy that was only 10 years ago.
I know.
That was 2.5 high schools ago.
I would have a 10-year-old.
I mean,
a 9-year-old.
That's how that works. Yes. Let's see. Lisa said, now all I listen to are podcasts. I can't do the radio anymore. And it's interesting. I struggle because I have a love for radio, and we wouldn't know any of the people in this community for the most part if it wasn't for radio. But I don't think radio technology is bad or outdated necessarily. I think the radio companies have made the product unlistenable based on how they've programmed it. And because all of the salaries at the top have to stay the same, right? There isn't a CEO saying, oh, you know what? All of my business decisions have lost us some money. I should take a pay cut. The whole entire industry now is basically built to pay the large salaries of the C-suite level executives.
Yeah.
Where if they took a step back and said, let's not add 18 minutes of commercials to every hour. Let's not make people sit through 9 minutes of commercials in a row. How do we make the listening experience better for the audience? And yeah, there's going to be a short-term loss up front.
Are you going to get those people back?
I think you could. I think you could get some of those people back. Let's see. Lisa said, love EDMS, but only watch the content / clips posted to the Instagram Reels. And that's how a lot of people get their content now. There's so many podcasts that I think I listen to, but in reality, I just see them on Instagram.
I was like that with Call Her Daddy until I actually started listening.
That was me with New Heights High, right? New Heights.
New Heights Show.
New Heights Show. The Jason and Travis Kelce podcast. I listened to my first episode of that podcast last week when they had Arnold on.
It's funny.
Before that, I got a lot of their content, but it was from clips on YouTube, clips on Instagram, clips on TikTok.
Actually, I think I watched their podcast before I listened.
On YouTube? It's Meg Not Megan said, did everyone watch / listen to the Mark Summers Elvis Duran in the Morning Show interview? I did see clips. I thought Elvis's team did a great job with that, where they teased some stuff the weekend before, because I think it was this past Monday that it aired. And they had a really good clip about Mark Summers literally saying, I'm giving you the exclusive here.
Yes.
And it was about, what's the show?
Quiet on Set, because he was in it being interviewed in the beginning. And that's like it. But he was very much like, I didn't know this was going on, or if I did, I was very concerned the second I saw him on the Quiet on Set. I was like, oh my God, please be good. Because I love that man. And when I think I commented on that post that like those two men, Elvis and Mark Summers, like that was my childhood. They shaped my childhood. Mark Summers was the first person that I was really like, I want to do this. And so was Elvis.
Yeah.
Like the both of them were my entertainment. And
you kind of do Mark Summers stuff with the Seahawks.
I
you
basically
play those
double
like
dare.
funny games and double dare games with Seahawks.
I do. They do often ask me for ideas for games.
Yeah.
I don't really have great ones because I'm like, I don't know, but I think I'm going to just go
I'm
double
telling
dare.
you, the
Slime.
The one thing I always think of with double dare is there's some adult with a cup on their head, and there's a child pouring slime into it.
No, it's not slime. It's liquidier than slime.
Something. They're always pouring some sort of liquid.
No, you got to go under the squirty thing.
But it's always about catching a certain amount of liquid in a cup on your head. Every game boils down to how do we make people catch liquid on their head?
Meg said, I always wanted to pick the giant nose.
Yeah.
There is a show on HBO Max about Nickelodeon that's not Quiet on Set, and it's a documentary, and it's so nostalgic.
Okay.
And Mark Summers is in that a lot, and he's talking about how they had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
And when they first launched it, one of the first game shows, they forgot to put the flag in the slime. And the kids like searching for like 5 minutes.
I think what's cool
Legends of the Devil.
When you find out the behind the scenes of all of those things that became so popular, so many of them, you realize it was people taking a chance, right? It wasn't as calculated as people would have you believe.
Yeah.
It wasn't even as thought out a lot of times. And it wasn't even as accepted as people probably wanted to be. But there's someone there who's pushing a crazy idea, maybe not fully thought out yet, maybe not accepted by a lot of people. And it's those people that take the chances to do newer things that usually down the road will get rewarded. The people who were very, because I guarantee you there was someone at Nickelodeon when they were thinking of Double Dare that was like, oh, I don't know. Here's the math.
You have to watch Orange Years because they talk a lot about, it's called I punched the table by accident. It's called The Orange Years. Thank you, whoever said that, Meg. They talk a lot about how the programming was built like kids programmed all of Nickelodeon, not the parents, not teachers, not this is what we want kids to learn. It was like, no, if kids ran a network, what would they put on there? And that's how they built it.
But I'm saying that was also a unique perspective at the time. Yes. No one else was doing that, which is why it took off. UK Frog 2020. And I don't know if this is an age thing or a country thing. UK Frog 2020 in the Twitch chat said, I wonder what is the age range of people on here. I have no idea what you're talking about.
UK Frog, how old are you? Were you born in 2020?
But it could also be an American versus British thing.
Yeah, do they have Nickelodeon there?
I don't know.
You're 43. You should know Nickelodeon.
Yeah. That would make sense. You're right in the wheelhouse of what this show. So Double Dare was a show. If you're familiar more recently with like a most extreme elimination challenge that used to be back, was on the air probably like 15, 20 years ago. It was a show that challenged families, kids and parents, to do these physical challenges oftentimes, and they were always messy or funny or somewhat embarrassing, and that was the whole idea of the show. It was a challenge show where you got dirty.
Well, let's be clear. Not every kid in America had Nickelodeon.
No.
So,
but most people, most 90s kids in America at least know what Nickelodeon is, and what Double Dare is. Because at one point, wasn't it touring too, Double Dare?
Yeah, so we're going to have to get our guests on in a second, but...
Sorry, we can't learn about health. We have to talk about slime.
I, as a kid, went to Universal Studios and got to go visit the set of where they filmed everything. Because it was literally in Universal Studios. And there was someone, and I would love to know who this person, they could be famous because I just don't remember them. I was 10, but they hosted this game show. And again, it was just for like the crowd, the audience that was at like, essentially, it'd be the same as going to Disney and there being a show.
Yeah,
Disney
it's a live
World.
show.
So they asked for volunteers, and it was my dream as a kid to get to be on a Nickelodeon show.
Yeah.
So I was like, me, 10 years old, and I go up there and it's like me and 5 other kids and the whole audience, and the host, like, I wish I knew who this person was. And the host was like, okay, who bothered you and your family today? And my mom and I had gotten into a fight that day. I forget why, but I remember she was annoying me and she made me cry. I said, my mom. So then
in front of everyone, you said
they made my mom come down, and they had every kid have a parent or someone in their family come down. And my mom had to get dressed up in a cup of milk. So it was like almost like a, I don't know, I guess they put like a flowy cloth, right? And then a hula hoop inside to make her be the cup of milk. And I had to take like these disc cookies and throw them in. And we won.
That's great.
I don't think we won anything. Maybe cut the line passes. We were so good.
I want to shout out, who else was it in here? Oh, Jess from Minnesota, who grew up in Germany. And she said, UK Frog, it must be an international thing because we never had it in Germany either.
Well, guys, I think you need to just watch it all.
But this is one of the reasons I also love this community is we have so many different perspectives and so many different places that people are coming from. And it's a good reminder that not every shared experience is a shared experience with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I would love to ask my mom if she remembers me watching those shows, though.
Can I, before we go, we're going to take a very quick break, bring our guest in, and actually, this is going to be the most ridiculous show. We went from talking about the flat earth theories to Nickelodeon, and now we are going to have a genetic cancer counselor come in and explain all the things that we should probably know about her line of work and what Fred Hutch does. But before we do that, I want to explain one of my favorite games that I've seen on Double Dare.
Okay.
So we've talked about how there's always a container that you have to fill up a liquid
Yeah.
with. But the add-on, the cherry on top to those types of contests were when it was like a water balloon that you had to pop on someone's head.
And
they
there's something
would
in
have
it.
like a little pin,
Yes.
right, on the top of their head. And you had to like toss a water balloon, and then the water balloon would pop on their head, and then they'd have to catch whatever it was.
Yeah, there was like something in it.
Yeah, those were always the best.
Can we bring this back?
I'm sure we could.
Not even for TV. Just like let's do it in the parking lot.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. We got space out here. I don't think anyone would mind.
Yeah, instead of like doing adult gymnastics, I'd love to just go do Nickelodeon games.
There's got to be a place that does it. And if not, that's our 18th business idea that we're not
in
gonna
the strip mall.
We're not going to get off the ground. All right. So we are going to take a quick break here, and we will be back, and we are going to get so much smarter in a little bit. So make sure you get those questions ready in the chat. We'll be right back. We've got one more word left. no one's. Oh, there we go.
Oh, Jess, good job.
Jess from Minnesota. Well done.
It's that German education.
It very well could be. All right. Now, let's get back to
Being
business.
smart.
Carla Marie.
Yes.
We are back and we've got our guest.
Yes, it's almost like a magic trick. She wasn't here before, and now she is. She appeared. This is Cynthia Hanford from Fred Hutch. Hello, Cynthia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here.
And
So,
Cynthia's a genetic counselor, and we're going to learn about what that even means. And you have a wealth of knowledge, and you are here to save us from the dumb conversations we were having earlier. So,
yeah, I don't know if you caught any of the conversations that we were having earlier. If you did, I apologize that you have to bring all of your education into the studio.
I wish I'd been listening now.
Okay. So first off, I guess explain what you do as a genetic counselor, and then we'll get into what you do at Fred Hutch specifically.
Sure, absolutely. So a genetic counselor is a healthcare provider that has specialized training, usually at the master's level, in genetics and how genetics can impact our health.
okay.
You'll find us working, really across the healthcare spectrum in prenatal care, pediatrics, cancer, cardiac, many, many different areas. And there's also genetic counselors who work in research or who work in genetic testing labs.
So then your specific role is what in that area?
My specific role is cancer genetics. So I've been with the Fred Hutch Cancer Center now for about 5 years and working in the space, for about 15 years. And so what it looks like for me on a day-to-day is sitting down with people, going over their family history, looking for any patterns or clues that might make us think there's a higher risk for cancer in the family, talking about genetic testing options that might give them some more information if they want to move forward with that, getting it set up, and then helping make sure they understand their results and their doctors understand the results.
And I know we're going to get into specific types of tests and whatnot in a little bit, but just to get this question out of the way, so you would take results from something like a 23andMe, and obviously a better version of that probably, and you would sit down with people and say, this is what I'm seeing. These are probably things you should be aware of, and these are maybe some changes we can make to kind of better protect yourself down the road, right?
That's a great question. Yeah, and you're right. There's absolutely a bunch of variety in genetic tests out there. So 23andMe is a great example of a consumer-based test. It can be a really fun way to learn more about your genetics. The tests I'm ordering for people are also, done on saliva or blood. They're doing the same idea of getting your DNA, your genetic material to look at. But in this case, we're picking kind of genes that have a known link to cancer risks.
Okay.
So those can be really specific tests.
So they're more specific than me just doing this test out of a box at home.
Right, and more comprehensive generally. So we could say if someone's worried about a family history of breast cancer, there's tests that can look at all the genes we know of that can cause that to run in families. If someone's more interested in cancers broadly, or there's a bunch of different types in their family, then we might do a test that looks at a bunch of different genes.
So
I was going to say, so the reason we ended up talking to Fred Hutch about having Cynthia on is because our friend Sam, who a lot of this show knows, she's on Elvis Duran in the morning show, she went on the air and talked about how she did she called it a hereditary blood test, and because her cancer runs in her family and she was concerned about it, and she's now changed a bit of her diet, the way she goes about her life because of that test. So hereditary, we talked a little bit about this. Hereditary blood test, is that a genetic test? That's just another way to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So yeah, the kind of word we use a lot in clinic is a hereditary cancer test, which is basically a test that's looking at a bunch of different genes that are known to cause inherited forms of cancer. We might do that for somebody who's been diagnosed with cancer, who's looking for information about what caused this to happen. Are there any, things that I should know about as I'm making decisions about my surgery or my treatment plan? Or we might see it in a healthy person who's concerned about a family history, like your friend, wanting to know, if I'm at higher risk than other people, what steps should I be taking on early screening or prevention to try and improve the odds for me?
I'm sure it's different, obviously, for everyone in the different types of cancer, but when someone gets these results, and what can a plan look like for someone who does have a genetic risk to a cancer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I find this type of information can be really empowering if you find out in advance that you have a higher risk. And you're right, there can be a wide range of risks, right? For the most part, these genes are not 100%, so it's not a guarantee anybody's going to get cancer. But if they're at a high enough risk, right, we want to talk about early cancer detection, starting screening tests at a younger age, doing them more frequently, offering tests maybe like breast MRI, for example, for someone who's at a higher risk for breast cancer. For the really high-risk genes, it might even look like surgeries to help lower your chance.
Like preemptive surgeries.
Like preemptive surgeries, yeah.
Would that be like the BRCA gene for breast cancer?
Yeah, and this is a gene that a lot of people have heard of, thanks to Angelina Jolie, who shared her story in the media. But she's a great example of somebody who had genetic testing because they had a family history of breast cancer and ovarian cancer and wanted to learn more about the risks. Tested positive for a gene called BRCA1 that can be a pretty major risk factor. You know, for people with that gene mutation, we can see around a 60 to 80% chance of getting breast cancer in their lifetime, or around a 40% chance of getting ovarian.
Well, you mentioned breast cancer specifically, and I like this question from UK Frog 2020, who said, "Are tests different between men and women? Like is there as a guy, do I have to worry about a breast cancer screening test?"
That's a super important question, so thanks for asking it. Pretty much all of these hereditary cancer genes that we know about affect both men and women. They can be inherited from either parent. And breast cancer genes like BRCA1 that affect breast ovarian cancer risk in females can also increase the risk for men to get breast cancer, for men to get prostate cancer, or sometimes cancer in the pancreas too. So they tend to affect multiple different parts of the body.
So it ends up being the same test for the most part for everybody.
Exactly, yeah. The implications, the screening tests that might be available would be different, but the genes themselves are the same.
And this might be a loaded question with a lot of layers to it, because obviously different healthcare facilities handle things differently and insurance companies handle things differently. But it's Meg Not Megan in our Twitch chat is asking if it's expensive, and because she was told that a lot of insurance companies don't cover cancer genetic testing. Is that true, to your knowledge at least?
It's improved a lot.
Okay.
In the 15 years I've been working in cancer genetics, these sort of tests, if somebody had to pay for it themselves, used to be $4,000.
Jeez.
Now it's come down to around $250, which is better. But
Jeez,
still a lot for some people.
What a drop off.
That's basically free at that point when you're comparing.
Yeah, comparatively, that's amazing.
And also, insurance companies have gotten a lot better about covering this type of testing, specifically for people who have risk factors in their family or who have a diagnosis of cancer themselves.
We just got this message from Tacoma Swifty. She said her genetic test tested breast, ovarian, pancreas, prostate, and another one. It was completely covered because her mom had cancer as well. So I guess it's different why you're going into it. If I'm just like, I just want to find out versus, hey, this is happening in my family.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So insurance companies are generally looking at, is this a medically important test for you because of your health history or your family history? And they have a list of criteria that a genetic counselor can help sort through for you and see, are you someone this would be covered? Are you someone who might want to look into options like self-pay testing?
I didn't even think of this one question from Sunny Survivor 7 on Twitch. And shout out, because I would have even gone down this road, but it's so smart. You had mentioned that with insurance companies and whatnot, and the price of it, that just in the last 15 years has dropped dramatically. But does genetic testing does the process update frequently? Whereas if someone got a genetic test 7 years ago, is it worth getting a genetic test again because maybe the science has jumped so far ahead?
Yeah. Yes, you have a super smart audience. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's we're blessed with them because we couldn't do it. We were talking about the flat Earth earlier, so
which we don't actually.
No, that's absolutely right. When I started in this realm again, we had 2 breast cancer genes that we did testing for.
And now how many?
And now there's, at least 13.
Wow.
And our technology has gotten a lot better, a lot faster, a lot less expensive to test for them. So I usually tell people you want to check in with your genetic counselor every 5 years or so and say, is the technology still up to date? Is there any new genes that we've discovered, any new techniques that would make me want to be tested again?
So I know we can get more into this before we leave, but you mentioned going to your genetic counselor. So can people just come see you right away, or is there a first step before getting to you? Or if I wanted to do a genetic test, where would I even start?
There's so many wonderful resources to find a genetic counselor. So you can certainly talk with your doctor to get referred to a genetic counselor who specializes in, cancer genetics or prenatal or whatever area you're concerned about. You can search online at the National Society of Genetic Counselor website.
which real quick, if you, in the chat right now, if you type in ! and the word find, you will get the link directly to that site that was just mentioned.
And that's a certified genetic counselor.
That's right. It's a list of certified genetic counselors across the U.S., and you can sort by zip code and specialty, telehealth, in person, find somebody who'll work with you. And then another resource I love to shout out is a Washington-based nonprofit called the Genetic Support Foundation. So for people who are having trouble getting referred to a genetic counselor, they offer telehealth services, again, by certified GCs
That's great.
across the country.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned that your specialty is cancer, right? Genetic testing for cancers. How do you end up there? Like, is that what you, obviously you went to a lot of schooling to figure this all out. Is that what you knew you wanted to do early on? Or did you start getting into that space and realize that this was something that you had an interest in?
Yeah, our training starts off pretty general, right? They want to expose you to a lot of different areas because who knows where you'll end up. I actually started in a prenatal environment for my first couple years, and then a cancer genetics job opened up, and I thought, hey, I'll give it a try. And then I've never left.
Oh, wow.
What I love about cancer genetics specifically is you can really help people be empowered and proactive. There's things we can do about it if you find out you're at higher risk that can really help people hopefully live longer, healthier lives.
Well, you had mentioned pancreatic cancer earlier, and I know once you get diagnosed with that, it's a very hard and sometimes, unfortunately, quick battle. So having the knowledge in advance, hey, I'm predisposed to this or I'm higher risk, that gives you such a leg up for something like that as an adult. But when you go to prenatal, like what, as a genetic counselor, what are you doing with so it's not babies, it's women.
Yeah,
I don't know how it all works.
People, so sometimes that would look like people coming in because they know there's a genetic condition that runs in their family. They want to know, what's my chance of passing this on in a pregnancy?
Wow, okay.
It can involve tests for different chromosome conditions, trying to help people decide, is that something that I want to do? Is it something that might change my decisions or help me prepare? A whole different realm of tests.
So there are people that'll decide, okay, this genetic test came back like this. I'm not going to have kids because I could pass this on to them.
Or it might be something I want to test my partner for to see, is it, there's a lot of conditions that are only a risk if it comes from both sides. So whereas in cancer, we're usually more thinking things that come from one side of the family.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine, and I'm going to use Carla Marie's family as an example here. I can only imagine someone, Carla Marie, like your mom, who worries about a lot of things.
Yes.
What do you say to people who are probably of the mindset of like, I just don't want to know because I don't want to stress about it. I'll deal with it when it gets here kind of idea. Because there are people like that who don't want that stress of, oh, I have this gene lurking in my body and now I have to worry about it every day of my life. What do you say to those people to maybe make them feel a little bit better about the whole process?
Yeah, I mean, I would say genetic counseling doesn't mean you have to do a test, right? It can be a place to come and talk through those questions and concerns and decide, am I a person where having this information will be helpful or having this information might just make me worry too much that I'm too scared to go in for my cancer screening. I think what a lot of people don't realize is genetics doesn't predict the future, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything is going to happen to you. If you have a gene that affects your risk for cancer, you already have that. And so knowing about it sometimes can actually be both scary and empowering at the same time.
And just because you have that gene, even if it's one of the more, common ones or something, it doesn't mean you're definitely going to end up with that cancer.
Right.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Is it beneficial for, like, since Anthony mentioned my family, all of us getting genetic testing versus me just doing it? Is it helpful if everyone in my family is getting the information and we can kind of compare? Does that help?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So, sharing information as a family is really important, right? I know for myself, when I tried to do my family history, I had to phone a friend.
Always.
To my mom.
Always.
What did grandma have?
Yep.
How old was she? That sort of thing can be helpful. If you have genetic testing and you find a risk factor, that's really important to share with your family. They might carry the same thing, and knowing that could help them. But in cancer, it's often a situation where we get the most information if we test the person who's had a diagnosis themselves. That's not always possible, but finding out if the person who had breast cancer in the family carried a gene mutation gives us more
Okay.
information than if we're testing somebody who's healthy, who's never had that diagnosis.
Because people in your family could get cancer not because it's genetic, because of the world around us. So just because someone had it doesn't mean they have the gene. It could have been a ton of other factors.
Do you find that sometimes people blame things on genetics that have actually nothing to do with genetics?
I think people think genetics plays a bigger role than it does sometimes.
Okay.
Something like cancer is really complicated. And you're right, absolutely any of us could get it, even if we don't carry a gene mutation that affects our risks. You know, environment plays a role,
Sure
random
does.
chance, aging. It's just about kind of looking at the factors that we can learn about to try and be informed and take steps we can.
There's a lot of people in here that are like, this is so fascinating.
Yeah.
So thank you. I just want to, you really saved us today. We have learned something today, which is amazing. And I think a lot of people are going to go start looking at find a genetic counselor near you. And in a few months, we're going to get people that are like, oh my God, I did this and learned this about my family or myself, which is really cool.
And Cynthia, there was actually another resource that we're going to share in the chat here. If you type in !force, it'll give you another resource, and you're going to do a much better job explaining what that is than I ever would. Because it's an acronym, right?
It's an acronym.
Yeah.
This is a website I give out to patients all the time. It stands for Facing Our Risks of Cancer Empowered.
Okay.
It's a website that has a wealth of information about how genetics influences cancer risks, about cancer genetic testing, as well as certain genes that someone might find in their family and what that could mean.
What are things, this is, I guess, a two-part question. What are some of the most common genes that people should look out for if they do get a genetic test? And is there any correlation between race, ethnicity, or anything like that, country of origin, if you will, and genetic testing?
Yes.
Do you find that some types of people might have similar traits or genes that could be problematic?
Okay, that's a two-part question.
Yeah, 2 parts.
I'm going to try and remember.
Okay.
I don't even
first
remember
part-
the first one.
The first part, I think, was about are there certain genes you really want to make sure that are tested for?
Yes.
I think that really depends on what's in your family history and what you're concerned about. So if, let's say, a family history of colon cancer, you want to make sure, at a minimum, we're covering all of those genes. And a genetic counselor can help make sure that's the case. In terms of race and ethnicity, that is a really complicated question. We know in terms of cancer genetics, right, regardless of where your family comes from, these things can be risk factors. But there are certain genetic changes that have been found more commonly in certain populations. For example, with the BRCA genes, around 1 in 40 people who are Ashkenazi Jewish actually carry a mutation in one of those genes.
And what is outside of that community? What's the...
It's about 1 in 400, we
Oh,
think, in the
wow.
rest
So
of the
that's
U.S.
a huge difference. Okay.
A huge difference. And yeah, similarly, where I'm from in Canada, there's a few certain colon cancer and stomach cancer gene mutations that are more common in parts of Newfoundland. So, we can see these sorts of unique populations around the world.
It's crazy. Just so insane. When you stop down and think about how 100 or when did genetic testing start?
Oh, for the BRCA gene specifically, it became available in the mid-1990s.
Which is just, that's in our lifetime.
That's
That's
younger
what's
than all
crazy.
of us,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and we're really lucky in Seattle to have Dr. Mary Claire King at the University of Washington is one of the researchers who discovered these
Did
genes.
not know that.
And she's still doing research today, trying to discover new genetic causes for breast cancer.
Well, that actually leads me to another thought I had just now was, what is your team doing, and what is Fred Hutch kind of doing as a whole, in the genetic testing space? Is there research that's being done right now to kind of advance what we know and what we can find out?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a lot going on at the Fred Hutch.
I
so-
can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of what they do.
I'll pick a couple of ones that, I refer people to a lot. One, so Dr. Heather Chang is one of our prostate oncologists who is also a leading expert in the genetics of prostate cancer. She's got a research study called I think it's called Prostate Promise. You can Google that one. It's available to anyone with a diagnosis of prostate cancer, regardless of how old they were or what stage it is. You can go online, you can sign up for the study. They'll send you a saliva genetic testing kit from a clinical lab that you can do at home.
That's great.
And search for genetic causes. And they also do a lot of research on in her area on ways to get genetic tests and genetic counseling into people's hands more easily.
Okay.
There's another study that one of my colleagues, Everett, is involved with called PROCEED. That's a national study that's looking at familial pancreatic cancer. So if you've got multiple people in the family who've had pancreatic cancer, you can sign up. You can, have the genetic testing that we would normally do, but then also contribute a sample to help look for biomarkers with the goal of eventually finding better ways to screen for that.
That's awesome.
That also speaks to how important it is to talk about these things. And obviously, if you've been diagnosed, you're going through your own whirlwind of thoughts and concerns and whatnot, but it's also important to not only talk to people about it if you're diagnosed, but also find these studies and see how maybe your diagnosis can help someone else down the road through contributing to this research.
I'm always so impressed with our patients at the Fred Hutch. Absolutely, it's a really overwhelming and upsetting time to get a new diagnosis, but a lot of them are really, really motivated to contribute to research to make things better, either for the next generation of people or maybe people in their own family.
When we're sending people to the exclamation point find, if I'm someone like, well, I don't really have cancer that runs in my family, at least that I know of, and I just kind of want to just start this process, are there different types of counselors that I should look for someone who's like, cancer does run in my family? What type of counselor should I be going to?
Right. If you specifically are worried about cancer running in the family, you can check off cancer as the specialty.
You can.
If you're worried about a family history of Alzheimer's or heart
Yes,
disease,
I need those.
you can check off different specialties there too.
Great.
If you have general questions more about consumer-based test results, some of those companies have partnerships with genetic counseling companies, or that's where something like the Genetic Support Foundation could come in that has expertise in a lot of different areas.
Okay.
And
cool.
I don't know if you could even expand on this because you mentioned the consumer testing kits out there. Is there a testing kit that you would suggest, or a group of them, or where would you send people to outside of just the exclamation point find that we're gonna that resource?
I mean, I think it's really important to kind of know the difference.
Yeah.
There are some that are meant to be more recreational. There are some that are strictly clinical that you'll need to have ordered by a healthcare provider. And then there's some that kind of blur the lines, right, that are a clinical grade test, but are set up to feel like you're able to order them in a consumer-based way. So I think just make sure you're kind of reading through what you're getting.
Okay.
If you have any questions about how comprehensive it is, talk to your doctor, talk to a genetic counselor about it.
Okay. Important.
And again, if you want to find that counselor, like we mentioned, no matter where you are, exclamation point and the word find, type that into the chat, and on YouTube it'll be in the description of the YouTube video later. Oh, look, someone just did that. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate that. Yeah, man, there are so many specific questions in here, and I don't want to get too into the weeds because we don't want to give individual medical advice on this platform. That's what those certified counselors are for. But what is one thing? Because obviously you're on here, right? You're talking about what you do and what your colleagues do in this space. What is one thing that you just want people to understand about genetic testing? If you had if someone gave you access to every billboard in America, what would you put on there?
What's one thing, hey?
Yeah.
I mean, I would just let people know this information is out there. It's more accessible and affordable than it used to be. And although it can be scary to navigate, there are people available to help you decide if this is something that you might benefit from, and that you can use that information to actually do something.
That's amazing.
It's great.
Oh, and before we can get out of here, we do have to talk about what actually is kicking off today, Carla Marie, and going down in August. So
we actually officially do get to announce this today.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it. So the Fred Hutch has an amazing event every year called Obliteride. If you've been in Seattle, you've seen someone at least once every day wearing an Obliteride t-shirt.
Yeah.
Because they're everywhere, which is amazing. And it's a, do you call it a bike-a-thon when you're biking?
If you're 6 years old, you can call it a bike-a-thon.
So a ride. Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Or there's also a 5K as well. So you can run or bike. But we are going to be at the starting line the day of the event, August 10th, and we're going to be setting everyone off. Every single countdown throughout the morning as a new group goes off, Anthony and I will be there hosting at Obliteride. So I'm very excited to do that. But it's a fundraiser, obviously, to raise money for cancer. So if you're going to end up doing it, please let us know. We want to make sure we see you that morning.
And the cool thing right now is if you want to register early, because registration opens today, you can register if you register between now and May 9th, you can save $5 on your registration. Awesome. So if you type in ! and the word ride.
It's already there.
Oh, it's in there already. Perfect. You can get the link there. And obviously you can always message us as well. If you want to email us, it's hello@carlamarieandanthony.com. We can send you any of those resources that we've talked about today.
Also, side note for the 5K, you can also walk. You don't have to run. So if you want to do that, do that.
You can be a virtual rider too, which
You
is
can?
usually how I participate.
We don't even know that.
I ride on my spin bike at home.
There you go.
Well, but then you're not going to be there to hang out with us. So
She's trying to avoid talking to us again, Carla.
she's like, I am done. I don't need to see these two.
She said, I'm going to lock myself in a room and avoid Carla Marie and Anthony.
But that is really cool. Cynthia, thank you for being here this morning. I feel like we learned a lot, and we're going to have a lot more questions, so you're going to be coming back for sure.
Awesome. I think I put the link in as well to our genetic counseling website,
Yes.
which has my contact details, so feel free to reach out.
Yeah, if you do ! Fred, it'll take you directly to that page. So we have ! Fred, find, force, and ride.
Yes.
Those are all the things that we got in the chat today. But again, if you want to email us down the road, if you're finding this later on, you can do that. It's hello@carlamarieandanthony.com, and we'll connect you. For real, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was so beneficial, not only for us, but I think the whole community has seemed to really love it. So thank you very much for making time for us.
Thanks for having me, and thank you so much for your really important audience questions.
And shout out to Guppy at Fred Hutch and Jackie, who's been amazing, who's next to the camera. You can't see her, but she's in here responding a lot. So
yes, she's our chaperone.
Yes, thank you very, very much. We'll see you Monday. It's Thursday.